Hi, this is Kim Nelson, professor at the Fashion Institute of Technology, Jewelry Design. I'm going to do another video. This one following the same idea as the last one I posted, which is how to do freeform surfacing for a maquette. In this case, I'm going to do a dome, because frequently in jewelry, you want to use a domed surface. So, to put this onto a dome, generally I'm going to want the dome to pretty much follow the shape of the piece. So that is the approach I will use. So I will go now there are a couple of ways I could do this. I can do this as an egg or a ovoid if I want to, ellipsoid, okay? I can do that, or I can do a sphere and just change the sphere into an ellipsoid. I prefer that approach. So I'll just start it at 0 and make it big enough. Okay. My big concern with the sphere is I don't want the seam to be on top at all. The surface I'm going to use for my piece of jewelry maquette, I don't want a seam down the middle. You can find the seam in Rhino because it's thicker. It's a heavier line. If in doubt, use your duplicate edge tool. You'll find it's the only ISO curve you can click on that will actually duplicate an edge. Okay? So once you know where that is, rotate your sphere so that that's facing down. Just a 90-degree, using the shift key to lock ortho, up and then around will give you that nice orientation. Now the problem I'm having though is that this does not match the shape of my object. So I'm going to move the sphere so that I feel like it's fairly well centered. And then I'm going to do a non-uniform scale. I'll start with center this time, from the center of the sphere. I'm going to pull it in to where it's close to the edges of my piece. Pull it down. And just keep the same for Z. I'll decide the Z or the depth when I'm through with this. Okay. That's pretty good. And now I'm going to look at the side and see, obviously I don't want it that crazy. So now I will do a non-uniform scale again. Don't want any change here. So that will be 1. Change that to 1. I do want to change here. You'll notice because the different C-plane is active, X, Y, and Z are different directions. In the top C-plane, this was Z direction. In the right C-plane, it's the Y direction. If you watch what you're doing, if you're looking at what's happening on the screen, you should be fine. I think that's reasonably good. And this I want to stay 1, which it already is. Okay, so now I have my dome. Kind of hard to see what you're doing interactively the way this is set up. So I'm going to take these two, and just so I can see them, I'm going to extrude them up so they poke through. My dome. That is one way to do it. Actually, let's do what we did in the last one. Keep things consistent. Top C-plane. Record history, and I will project these curves onto this surface. Okay. The bottom ones don't mean anything to me, but the top ones do. And if I wanted to, I should be able to even trim that surface and then play with the dome. The problem with trimming it away, though, is I'm going to have a hard time snapping, okay? Because I want to scale this still up and down and up and down, and the way I've trimmed everything away, it's going to be hard to see. And you always want to make your life easy as you can. So I'm going to put a point object, go to any of the basic C-planes that don't create geometry, like display or set view or whatever. And you should have, of course, I picked one that doesn't have it. You should be able to have your, oh, I did, actually, it's right here. Single point. And I'm going to put that at 0. I just hit 0, enter. And then I'm going to project that on to the surface of the C-plane. I mean, onto the surface from the top C-plane. And that should give me the control I need. But you know what? I don't like the position. So instead of that, I'm going to put that point in the center of the sphere. It's going to give me a better result. And then project. With history this time. And now, let's see if I'll be able to maintain my history after I trim these back. Okay, so I'm going to grab this now because that's higher off the ground than I want it. Go into my right C-plane so I can move up and down. Now that point did not travel with me. I want to make sure that it's not my mistake. It may be that history won't attach itself to a point object that's been projected. Because as you saw, the curves obeyed beautifully. Okay, history won't attach, so you need to, and for some reason, there's more than one point there. You need to make sure you select the point and the surface together. And it's saying it broke history on an object. But since the point wasn't updating, I don't know how that could be. Curves are still behaving nicely. So I've got that. Now I want a more shallow dome. So I'm going to take my surface. And from now on, I'm going to use, I'm not going to use non-uniform scale. Usually I'm going to use just scale 3D. Okay. The challenge with that is that even though the curves did update, the piercing, the curves did not update. Okay. I think that the trimming in this case is a problem. Yeah, don't trim your surface. Okay. Visualize it without it being trimmed. I want the top of that to be about that high off the surface. And you can see that by scaling this object, as the dome becomes bigger and bigger, it becomes less and less severe, right? I can look at this from the right side and see how close I'm coming. With the edge of my curves to the ground, and how much of a dome that actually is. I like it being this high off the, maybe a little lower. No, I like that, but I would like a little bit more of a dome, not much. Since I'm scaling 3D, it doesn't matter which C-plane I'm in. By making the dome smaller, I get a more aggressive dome. If I am trying to make the bottom of it feel fairly equal, I can draw a reference line. And I can zoom in here. And I can use that to compare. Because the smaller this gets, the lower these points are going to go. And they aren't even. I'm much closer here. So I'm never going to get flat. Flat's not possible because it's an organic curve. But if I wanted to tweak it, that's how I would tweak it. I would continue to scale this around until I got what I wanted. And you can see each time I do, and I'll say that's fine. And now I will trim off the outline of the surface. I'm not going to trim the center yet. I want to show you one more thing. Obviously, if I untrim this, it's a circle again. It's a big sphere, which is an awkward thing to work with. I can come to Surface Tools, and I can shrink trimmed surface to edge by right-clicking. And that should have changed the surface, so now it comes closer to the edge of the curves. And we can see what that effect was by untrimming it. See, now it's no longer a big dome. And this surface is a little easier to work with if I wanted to do further manipulation. However, if I try and do further manipulation, if I try and rebuild it, say like that, and I turn on my control points, I have very likely lost history now because of the extent. No, history remained. That surprises me. So yes, I could now come back in. If history had been broken, I would have simply taken the original curves and projected them onto this surface with history and kept working. Okay, so that just shows you a way that you can get a little simpler surface to work from than the great big sphere, because forever in the memory of Rhino, that sphere is going to be a sphere, whether it's trimmed or not. So if you ever have to go back and adjust it, it's going to be kind of a pain. So I'll go ahead and trim this off. And I will use our last method. You can use all the same methods we used before, but I'm going to go ahead and use the thickness method that I like best, which is the extrude normal to surface. Something like that. Do the same with the middle. Offset my surface. Minus, let's try 2 again. Yeah. Actually 2 is not that thick, so minus 1.7. There we go. And trim. And trim. and join. And there you go. And if I EMAP that, it'll be very clearly as part of the dome. It'll feel firm and rigid and mechanical, like it was punched out of a piece of a dome, which is something we're often looking for in jewelry. So, okay, that's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching.